Good morning and good design. Welcome to a very special live Adventures in Design. Well, live for people that were with me over on YouTube the day before. If you're listening to the podcast, sorry, you missed out. But I'm always evolving, always trying to do something a little bit different. So I came up with the idea to put an episode out where it was literally ask me anything that you want. Now, Valentine's Day will be for some of you tomorrow or some of you today. I'm going to stop the time traveling now. I'm just going to admit that it's Wednesday and you're listening to it on a delay. That seems like the right thing to do. So let's just go with that rule right out of the gate here. So maybe you need to ask me about dating advice. Maybe you need to talk to me about business advice. Maybe you need to just hang and ask something dumb about the show. Whatever it is, I'm open to take your questions. But don't worry, if nobody shows up, I've always got something to talk about. That's why I took this career. Now, because I am doing it live and I can't edit, I'm going to forewarn everybody. I cannot talk the entire show without taking a drink. So please be patient that every now and again you might hear a slight break, which is me hydrating. And hydrating is so important, as we all know. One of the things that I've been dealing with a lot in my own career, and hopefully this kind of resonates with you, I talked about this on Shop Talk Wednesday with Billy Ballman. First question is in. Oh, I should have made like a soundboard so I could ring a chime when a question came in. David Gallo wants to know, what are you drinking? Now, this gets into an interesting topic. Because one would think that I'm drinking a delicious Trenta of cold brew coffee from Starbucks. But false, fake news. Because when I walk up to Starbucks, I always clean out the cups. I don't run them through the dishwasher because you should never put plastic through a dishwasher. That's cancerous. But I hand wash all my Starbucks cups, and I keep them for the perfect to-go cup. Because if I want to make a ripper for the road, and I'm drinking it, and I get to, say, Disneyland, or I get to a mall that I want to crush, or I get down to the beach, all I got to do is just find a garbage can and throw it away. I don't have to worry about getting my to-go cup back home. So what I do in the morning is I brew a full cup of Thunder King coffee, and then what I don't drink goes into a jar, and I do it that way. In the summertime, when I get more proactive, I'll always have a bottle of cold brew going. XJUAX asks, do you think straight edge is since birth or till death? Basically, can someone become straight edge? Yes, I have a definitive answer for this. You are drug-free until you decide to put the label on straight edge. And for those of you that aren't from the punk rock roots, as me and some of the listeners, straight edge is a movement that was founded by a song that Minor Threat did back in the mid-'80s called Straight Edge. And it was all about being anti-society's rules. And by being anti-society's rules, it meant that you didn't drink, you didn't smoke, you don't do drugs, you don't fuck. Conveniently, the sex part kind of fell off of the X. Because a lot of people are like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to drink. I don't want to get drunk. I don't want to smoke cigarettes and smell like tobacco, and I don't want to do drugs, but I need that sex part. And the reason why the X became the symbol was because when you were underage, they would put a X on your hand. That meant that you were allowed in the bar, you paid your admission, but you were not allowed to get served or drink. So what people have done since the beginning of time is they take ownership of whatever thing is cast upon them. So at first, it was considered embarrassing to have the X on your hand, but then once you take ownership and you X up your own hand, you have now risen above those that stand over you. So my answer to all of this is that you are drug-free when you were born, but if you get to 15, 16, and you decide that you proactively don't want to pursue a life of substance abuse or recreational substance experimentation, then you can take on the identity of straight edge. But if you go up to most people that are maybe good church-going people or people like myself where, getting high never seemed cool because I'm high on life, kid. I'm high on life, man. Or if you meet somebody who's high on Christ, that is a decision that they're making, but I wouldn't say that person's straight edge. Because if you went up to them and tried to ask them which Earth Crisis record was the best, they'd have no idea what you're talking about and would probably get into a weird conversation about global warming. Thank you so much, XJUAX. I'm assuming that you are straight edge because you've got the X's on both sides of your name. You have an X as your avatar. And I would like to invite you to join my straight edge band that I've always wanted to start, ERO. ERO. ERO, my straight edge band. Once we exit up, you might know us as Xerox. Think about that. Nobody ever did. Hitting my bootleg Starbucks. I guess I don't have to announce it every time I take a drink. But while I'm waiting for another question to come in, and thank you for the 2 questions I got, they were both bangers. I've been looking a lot lately at the return on investment of time that I put into work and what I get back out of it. And I think for many of you that have freelance jobs or you have clients that you're working for, I think that is something that we all need to investigate. Like, how much money am I getting? What amount of work do I commit to this? What style of work do I give? How much work do I put into something? And that's easy when somebody's paying you money and there's like an invoice on the table that all you have to do is create this brand or create this logo, and you pass go and you're $2,500 richer, $5,000 richer. God bless you. But that's even more difficult to figure out the ROI when you're working for yourself, right? Like, if it's work that you know is going to show the best example of what you're capable of, that then is going to make you happy. And when we're happy, we do our best work. When we do our best work is when we land future better projects, which is then we have more leg for negotiation, which is when we make more money. That's my cycle of success that I talk about a lot. What is the ROI when you are working for yourself? And for me, as a professional content creator for the last 4 years, I've tried a lot of things. And some things have a level of success that's attached to them, but maybe that level of success doesn't equate to the amount that it takes to build that. So I've always looked for patterns in my career on what is the best way to do my job daily, what makes my audience happy, but what balances off with the return of the work that I put into it. Ryan Sanders writes in and says, will you ever do an interview with Fresh Baked David? You know, here's the interesting thing about the world of Disneylanders. I would for sure sit down and interview David from Fresh Bake or Dusty from Mice Chat. But the Disneyland world, and this is where I throw shade. You guys can put the markers here and you can send it over to them. The Disneyland world of creators is not a friendly world of creators. From what I've seen, it's very competitive. There's not a lot of brotherhood. You don't see those people a lot popping up in other videos. And I actually reached out to David from Fresh Bake, never wrote me back. I reached out to Dusty from Mice Chat, and it sort of dissolved and fell apart. And I'm very interested in people that have the obsession with the park and turn it into daily content or weekly content. I think both of those creators are fantastic. Prove me wrong, but so far what I've learned from the Disney community is these people that are in love with the magic and this happy feeling maybe aren't the most community-driven people, or maybe I haven't broke into their community, or maybe they see me as another content creator that's doing something similar, and they see it as a competition, so therefore they reject my offer or just don't find the time to meet up with me. I'll tell you this, the world of content creation is a really, really difficult way to make a living. People feel very territorial over what their subject matter is, and for a guy like me that has lots of different subject matters, it's hard to grow a channel or a platform if you don't talk about the same thing all the time. But because I put out 200 podcasts a year, because I'm now doing daily videos over on YouTube to really try to get this channel off the ground, I can't stay focused on one topic all year long. I mean, I love Disneyland, but I'm not going to talk about it every day of the week. I love design, but I'm not going to talk about it every day. I love making money. I love helping people out with their careers. But what I think is more evolved is a friendship where it's about knowing the people and appreciating that conversation. So therefore, I always just try to bring a long dialogue of familiar faces, familiar characters, new people always popping up, but a core group of people that when you listen to a show, it's relaxing. It's not like learning all the time or the same thing over and over again. Ryan Sanders writes in, sorry to hear that, but it makes sense. I mean, dude, I think you guys would be fascinated to see a lot of the personalities of the people that you only knew through the lens that they do in social media or their career or the way that they present themselves. I got a cable that's wrapped around my ankle. Sorry about that. I think you'd be surprised, though, if you meet the real people and not the stage persona or the on-screen persona of people. And one of my greatest compliments, and this is where I'm bragging about myself and putting down other people without thinking about it, but I just became self-aware, is that I've had a lot of people that have said, man, I was so excited to meet you. I was so surprised how you're exactly the way you are on the show. This is me. I hit record. I'm me. Like today, I'm relying on the audience. I have 0 notes on the screen in front of me. Like this is just me hitting record and just getting my thoughts out. I'm not trying to project some character that I'm not. I'm not trying to project a level of success and make the audience think that I'm that level of successful so they'll follow along with me until I become that. Like I don't believe in fake it until you make it. I believe in work hard and hope that you make it. And that's what I've been doing. Lauren Inc. writes in, my most recent ROI was getting the flu. Well, Lauren, you were irresponsible, okay? If you were going to bed early, if you're eating your Tasty Yummies meals, if you're doing things right, if you weren't out partying all the time, you wouldn't be so sick. So, Lauren, I need you to go to bed, drink lots of liquids, and be healthy. Because I don't have a big audience. I can't lose you, Lauren. You're like one of my only women that I have that are a part of this. I lose you, the whole thing falls apart, Lauren. So come on, take care of yourself. I can't do it all. I can't come over to your house and serve you ginger ale and saltines, which is not. Yeah, sure, Lauren wasn't out partying. All right. She's fighting back now, but we all know Lauren. We call her PL, right? Party Lauren. So Party Lauren, hang in there. I hope that you feel very better. Somebody asked, who does the AID intro on the voiceover? That was Billy Bauman way back when. When we first started the podcast, Billy's like, I got a theme song. I got a narration for it. I got it all done. And then he decided, now, Mark, you do the rest. And that's been our relationship ever since. Lauren got sick because she was working too much. All right, Lauren, let's talk about that topic. You don't realize this, but you just asked me a question because I can make content out of anything. Lauren, you got to have a balance of life, friend. I know that you're putting in all the hours because you're ambitious and you want to build this career, and I respect that. I've done that. But I've also, like everything in my life, I've also done it completely wrong. And the way that Biggie bought me this cord, and it's so long that it just keeps getting wrapped around everything, and I'm rolling over it. I'm stepping on it, so I gotta take a break. But Lauren, back to my monologue. I was just like you, of work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder. And sometimes it just doesn't pay off. Sometimes you got to figure out what that balance is. And I know that that's easy to be said when, say that, you know, maybe you don't have all the money you need, or you're trying to build a career, or you got the job of your life. But Lauren, I encourage you, every day when you start working, the one thing you should write down in your journal or your daily book is what time you're going to stop. You know, there's a thing that if you tell yourself, like, I got to be done by 9 o'clock tonight. I've been going late the last couple of nights. I swear to you, there's a way that you will work to the pace to get done at 9 o'clock or 9:30. But 9:30 is better than midnight, because if we go so hard on Monday, we start to feel it on Tuesday and we slow down. And then on Wednesday, we're going really slow. And then Thursday, we're dragging our ass. And then Friday, we're just dead to the world and you get that flu. Tavo does this all the time. Tavo burns it too hard at both ends. I'm always telling Tavo, you need a weekend of sitting at home doing nothing. But if he's not tattooing, he's drawing. And if he's not drawing, he's cruising all of Orange County to find the perfect cup of coffee. You got to keep a balance in there, man, because I think that you'll find that if you properly manage the amount of hours that you work, and if you track it with like your iPhone or like a Fitbit, you track like, okay, if I sleep 6 hours, how productive am I the next day? I did this with the Nike Fuel Band when it came out years ago. The one thing that I really got from the Fuel Band is I realized that I'm very efficient with 6.5, 7 hours of sleep. If I cut down to 4.5 to 5.5, I can do that for 2 days, but then my productivity starts to slip, my health starts to slip, and my work enjoyment slips. So, Lauren, I would suggest to you, if at all possible, if money's flowing and it's not the career project that's going to change our life, let's try to get that schedule down to where we have an agreed deal with Lauren that if it doesn't get done in 10 hours, it's not important. If it doesn't get done by 10 p.m., it's not important. And then you can go back to being the woman that we all fell in love with, LP, PL, Party Lauren, Lauren Party. I think it was Party Lauren when I first made up your nickname. Go back to doing that. My bud Eric writes in, who is someone you would really like to interview but haven't had the opportunity yet? Will Smith. Well, as you know, Will Smith is my rival. He doesn't know this, but I'm not a fan of Will Smith. And I know that this is not a popular opinion, but I also didn't like Robin Williams. I loved Robin Williams as a serious actor, but I found as a comedian, much like Jim Carrey, I don't like that over-the-top monkeying around, like saying just words and throwing things around. I don't like that. I like something that's more planned out, figured out. So when I saw that Will Smith had been cast as the genie in the new live-action Aladdin, I thought that was perfect because it's a character that I hate, played by an actor that I hate, being reimagined by someone that I hate more than all of that. So it's literally just a downward spiral, a black hole of hatred. That's not racist. And I couldn't think of a movie that I would hate more than that live action Aladdin. And Will Smith as that role is perfect. A real answer of who I would love to interview, who's on my dream list. I would love to interview Ian MacKaye of Minor Threat. That's a dream of mine because he accidentally created a movement. He accidentally did so much stuff with his talent, and he's a very humble creator. Like a lot of people would really big dick that creation and let it go to their head, and he has stayed humble and focused on what he wants to do and disassociated himself from these like life-shattering things that he created for a lot of people. I mean, if you think about how amazing Minor Threat was, if you think about how amazing Fugazi was and how both of those bands were years and years ahead of their times and how he kept it so level-headed, sort of one of the first faces of the DIY movement, I would really love to talk to him, not like a fan interview, but a peer-to-peer, what were the struggles, because he was just making it all up as he went along. Like a lot of people would be like, oh, you invented straight edge. He wrote a good song that people identified with. The movement invented itself. He just reluctantly became the face of it for a while. So I would love to have that one-on-one talk to him. And then one of my all-time big loves of who I would like to talk to is, I think, the man that single-handedly taught me my love of design, branding, marketing, brotherhood, independence is Stacy Peralta. Those Pal Peralta videos that just got circulated around, bootleg copy after bootleg copy in the 80s, those videos were so ahead of their time. They were YouTube before they were YouTube. They were viral before viral. It was a flavor of youth marketing that we have not seen, that has not been replicated. Well, it's been replicated, but at that moment, it was completely original. So I would love so much to talk to Stacy Peralta, once again, an innovator, just so ahead of his time, and how he was able to put those videos together, work on the brand. When he and Craig, forgive me I won't get the last name right, Craig Stasek, I think that's the way you pronounce it. When they decided that all of the Pal Peralta ads that would go in Thrasher and Transworld magazine would never have anyone skateboarding in it, it's genius. People know our guy skateboard. People know Tony Hawk and Steve Caballero, Mike Vallely, Mike McGill, and Rodney Mullen. They know that they skate. They know that they rip that long cable. But we don't need to show that. We're selling people on the brotherhood, on the good times, on the fun times, on the friendship that is skateboarding. That's genius, man. So those are two that are just absolute legends and heroes of mine. But the list goes on and on and on. I have a list of probably 300 people that I would love to interview. I'd love to talk to Leah Dunham. I don't know if I could connect that or get to talk to her, but I think that the way that she handled herself in Girls, that's true female empowerment. Making a movie called Wonder Woman and having a strong female lead and having everybody isn't as smart as her and can't quite figure it out, and she's obviously completely beautiful, but strong and menacing physically. Like, yeah, that is one level of female empowerment. It hits you over the head. What Leah Dunham did in Girls, taking ownership of a body that society would not deem as perfect or ideal, taking ownership of being completely dumb in your 20s like all of us are, and showing that real slice of life and saying, hey, this is literally who I am. Accept it or hate it. And she got hated on a lot for it, and it never slowed her down. Still kept whipping her tits out, still kept showing her ass, showing her vag, and just took complete ownership over it and made it I think one of the best shows ever. So when I look at heroes and people that I really look up to, Leah Dunham is high on that list. I think that she is just fantastic. All right, let me catch up with some of these over here. Lauren writes in, Party Lauren writes in, she just put down her cocaine and decided to type a little bit. That's really great advice. I'm the worst at cutting myself off from work. I definitely see the pattern you're talking about. Oh, Lauren. Thank you for your honesty. Yeah, work on your schedule. That's one of the things that I did this week with my training camp students is start looking at your schedule. Like you have to run a calendar. And a couple of little chicken nuggets that I threw out that people really were like, whoa. When I book my calendar, first off, I'll give you three freebies. Three free chicken nugget, a 3-piece of free chicken nuggets. But let me hit this bootleg Starbucks. One, before you go to bed, always set up your day the next day. I was telling the guys in training camp this week that most NFL head coaches, when they go to a game, they already know the first 10, 20 plays they're going to run. Now, you may not care about football, but I'll tell you this. Imagine if the first 10 times you get the ball, you already know what you're going to do. What this allows you to do is be calm, not get swept away in the adrenaline, because they only have 45 seconds to figure out a play. Tops. You don't get swept away in that moment of like, oh God, what do we do? That didn't go the way that we wanted. They know what they're going to do, and they just run the plays. So that allows the coach the time to calm down, settle into the game experience, the game environment, and it gives them time to look at what the opponent is offering them. So after their 10 plays rehearsed runs out, they now know they need to start passing or running or take advantage of a week left or whatever they're seeing out there, whatever sort of edge of competition they see, wherever they see they can power through, they want to take that. So when you go to bed at night and you already have your day planned out, the best thing is when you wake up, you don't go, what am I going to do today? You have it laid out in front of you. Now, you got to be free with your calendar. You got to be able to move the pieces around. But the other 2 chicken nuggets I'll give you is when you do lay out your calendar, never ever put everything touching. My rule is don't let nuts touch butts. So you got to let everything have a little bit of space between it because life happens. And I also would advise, I'll give you 2 more pieces of chicken nuggets. This is a 4-piece for free. Always leave room open in your day, a 2-hour, hour and a half, 3-hour block. Leave space open because once again, life will happen. So then you can slide things around. But the biggest thing, Lauren, is when you book your calendar and you get committed to a calendar, if you work Monday through Friday or if you work 6 days a week, whatever amount of days a week you work, I hope that it's not 7. I'd recommend always at least giving yourself 1 day off to rest the brain, the mind, the body. But make sure, however many days a week you work, that you always have 1 day where you don't put anything in there. So you have a catch-all day. For me, it's normally Mondays. So I go through a week. At the end of the week, I don't have that following Monday booked. I try not to put anything in Monday. No interviews, no meetings, no appointments. So whatever I didn't make it through, it can slide over to Monday. I used to do it on Fridays, but I found that on Fridays, I'm just looking to get into Weekend Jones. And if you got plans, if I want to do an early Disneyland Ripper, it's like, it's 3 o'clock. Do I really need to do this thing? So there is a 4-piece free nugget for you. AID.network training camp if you want to learn more. Mike Resort. I have a hard time reading these when all, the screen names and there's no spaces. So we'll just call him Mike Ramit in the Art. Mike Ramit in the Art writes in, do you think creators should keep design and illustration portfolios separate? I was told this back in college years ago. Not sure I agree now. No. Put it together, man. Put it together. Say, I would maybe categorize it. I'd maybe have a portfolio that like, here's my illustration section, here's my design section. But chances are you're probably mixing the two together. And probably ideally, because like graphic design is kind of hard to identify on its own, I would have my projects that are like mixed media all together. Hold on. This is a design question. For those of you that are listening on the podcast don't know, I've just switched over to my design hat. All right, I got the design hat on for a design question. What I would do is keep my mixed media pieces together. And then maybe, when you get to another link in your portfolio or whatever, just be like illustration, so that people can understand that you not only do the design, but you're also capable of doing the illustration. But as far as keeping two separate portfolios or two separate websites, that's too much upkeep. Everybody here today has a website that's outdated. Why would you want to have two websites that are outdated? All right. Ryan writes in, what kind of Range Rover did Greg get? Full size. Greg from PinGameStrong.com, sponsor of ours. By the way, we made a new page over on our website. That sounds so old. We made a new page on our website. If you go to Adventures, no, that's not our link. If you go to AID.network and you look down at the footer, or you go to AID.network/sponsors, now all of our sponsors are on one page. So if you remember an ad that I talked about and you want to go get the coupon code or see what the promo is, you can go over there and get it. You can also find links to all of our show sponsors, the people that we record with. So you can see all of that over there as well. We were talking about Greg from Pin Game Strong's Range Rover. I figured it out. He got a Range Rover, the 4-door model that has like those cool like vents on the front quarter panel. I don't know all the models by heart. He got it certified used, like 2 years old, because when you drive a car off of a parking lot brand new, that's basically in a Range Rover. That's basically like taking $15,000 and just throwing it out the window. Like, thank you for the new car. Here's $15,000 that I didn't need. Just throw that right out the window there. So yeah, Greg got my dream, but that means the dream is still alive. If one of my buddies can do it, I can do it. And if a project that I'm a part of can earn Range Rover money, I'm still in the game, Daddy. I'm still in the game. Was that a money question? Because I do have my cash cap. If a hardcore cash question comes in, I'll switch over to cash cap. I'm going to go back to VGHC. Are you still planning on releasing an AID app? Yes, that is still in the plans, but man, oh man, is it hard to make an app. And it relies on a lot of favors from a lot of different people. And I want it to work really, really well for you. My guy Skylar is a fantastic app builder. He's also a young person who's in college and has a lot going on right now. And we have something that's built. It just doesn't move real fast. And I want to figure out how to get it faster. I also am working on some other things with the show that's content-wise. And to me, the content always becomes before everything else. So I'm on this journey right now working on some content stuff. Once I feel like I have that in line, I will switch back to all focus on the app. But we have it sort of wireframed and figured out. We need to skin it, and we need to figure out a way for it to run faster. Because I know no app is better than an app that's frustrating or slow, or you push buttons and you don't get a reaction time. So I appreciate all of your patience. I know that the Circle of Trust hasn't always been the ideal way to listen to content. I'm honored that as many people have signed up as they have. But here's the problem that the show's been in for years. This is a cash question. The problem that the show's had for years is that it's big enough to make a living for me, but it never quite grows past that to where there's enough money to really invest in it. And I feel like it many times, you maybe hear me get frustrated about this on the show, but sometimes I feel like I've taken it as far as one person can take it. Like a lot more help would make more things happen. That being said, though, the podcasting is such a weird thing to get into, and it's so weird the way that it works that it just doesn't ever seem to cross that threshold of being able to bring in more help, more talent, and all that type of stuff. So therefore, it just kind of is what it is. And we do it slowly. We do it day by day. But the content is king. That's always where I put my first love and energy into making good content. So everything else just has to play second fiddle to that. I cannot wait to have an app. I know it'll change my business, but with limited resources, it's on the slow train. Nice hat. Thanks for the feedback. You're welcome, Mike. I got a hat for every question that comes my way. I'll take the cash cap off now that we're out of a cash zone. Are you still, already answered that one? Yes, congrats to our boy Greg for having Range Rover money. Dude, what Greg has done with PenGameStrong.com is so impressive. I'm excited to have him not only as a partner, but as a friend, and also as a regular contributor to the show. You're going to hear a lot more of Greg this year on the show and a lot more of Thunder Dean as we start to work on projects together, all coming in the future. I'm waiting for you to get that sick new Passport. The Honda Passport, which is their mid-level SUV, it's not quite as big as... Damn, what's that bigger one called? It's not like a little bubble like the CRV, and it's not as big as their full-size one, but the Passport fits in that little middle spot. And I was ready to get one until I realized that I would be spending a lot of money on a cataract surgery. So let's put our Honda plans on hold because eyeball new truck. All right, let's go eyeball over new truck all the time. People are loving the cash cap hat. You guys don't know this, but I wear that all the time on the show when we talk about money. Sue Hodgkinson, Hat Game Strong. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Pete Malamas, good answer. Thanks about the app. I appreciate that. Lauren is giving me props on Content is King. Pilot. Yes, Pete, it's the Honda Pilot is the big Honda. 3-row seating. I don't need 3 rows of seating. I mean, I'm going to keep the Honda Element because it's paid for and it's a tank. So that's my haul stuff around car. So I think I'm good. I think I'm good to go. All right. Let me see here. Dave Clayton, what up, UK, writes in. So when are you going to visit England next, Mark? This is a dream of mine. Let me lubricate. A dream of mine would be to go to England for like a week, 10 days, and just do a bunch of interviews. Maybe speak at a couple places, maybe do the show live somewhere. But I would just love to go over to the UK and just batch record a bunch of stuff. Problem with that is a couple of things. One, it's expensive. I have a high cost of living in LA, so I kind of have to really find a way to monetize that adventure and make sure that it's worth my while. And then 2, when I'm on the road, I still need to be releasing content. So it creates a delay. But with the proper sponsors and the proper planning, I would love to go to London. From the very beginning of Adventures in Design, the show has always resonated with British designers. Male or female, British folks are my people. The way that their sense of humor works, the way that they're brutal and frank and honest and don't hold back, it's something that I've always resonated with. I love British television. I love the humor. You know, one of my very best friends, Sean Mort, happens to have the British genes. So, and speaking of British genes, when my dad did 23andMe, shout at your boy, right? I was a little British pup once, way back when in my amoeba state. So I love it over there. When I went to France, Paris is like the most beautiful city I've ever seen. And that was very cool to see that level of architecture and attention to detail. I mean, it's a designer's, fantasy come true. But where I really felt at home was my time that I spent in the UK, both being in London for a handful of days and then going to the countryside and being in the Snicket and going to Leeds. And the best thing about people over in the UK is they eat a ton of gravy. Like when I came back home to America, I accidentally got into a knife fight in customs, because I'm very vigilant against terror. And I got into a knife fight. And the terrorist, he pulled out a box cutter. I said, not today, not on Bricky's watch. So I did my Keith Sutherland, Jack Bauer move that I learned from all of my terrorist training in 24. I took off my belt and I slung it at him. And I just, Indiana Jones style, I pulled the box cutter right back to me. And I went up to grab the box cutter. The one thing I did is I didn't anticipate that it would rotate around. It cut me a little bit. That's all right. I'll take a cut for freedom. But because I'd just been with my British brothers and sisters, when I got cut, blood didn't come out. Brown gravy. Brown gravy rolled right out of my skin. True story. Should have been there. Everybody was applauding, and then I started to applaud myself. And as I did so, brown gravy started to run down my arm. And a small kid came up to me and said, "Can I lick your arm?" I said, "Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And this probably makes me a sicko, but I just saved America, so I'll be a sicko for a moment." True story. All right. Plan B for your eye. Rock a sweet pirate eye patch like Dylan Garrett Smith. It's funny you mentioned that. Let me take a drink. Funny you mentioned that. Because of the cost of the eye, because of the cost of the eye and trying to figure it all out, when I drive and it's bright and sunny, I kind of drive like this. Like I keep, like this eye here is open, but this other eye, I'm kind of like squinting it to get the good focus going. And it gets painful. And I have thought, if I was wearing an eye patch right now, I could just use one eye, keep the other eye in the dark, and not have to close it and squint and put wrinkles on my beautiful face. So I've thought about the eye patch. But can't we not argue that Dylan Garrett Smith rocks it so hard that I would seem like a cheap pirate comparison? I mean, that guy's look is fantastic. I remember just interviewing him, just being like, who am I talking to? Like, it was literally like interviewing Negan in real life. I absolutely loved it. I loved it. Let me see here. Any progress update on the Thunder King coffee? Well, I got bourbon sent to me from Kentucky. My friend Scott Richer, that you may remember, this is money. Scott, who was on the show last year, who was my real mentor in design and who I have a strong friendship with. His bourbon company, Bedtime Bourbon, they sent me some bourbon. So we were waiting for beans that I like to come in. We're going to soak those, and around holiday, there will be a completely non-alcohol, because once they roast it, the bourbon burns off, but a bourbon cold brew that you can, around the holidays, you can rip a cold brew and literally you put it in a tumbler and you drink it, and it's just like drinking a really great glass of bourbon, but also cold coffee. It's fantastic. As far as the regular bean, we're tasting, and I'm tasting stuff and just trying to get my palate. Like, I want it to be a real signature bean. I'm not going to call it the Bricky Brew because I want other people to buy it because I get a commission when it sells. I want this to be a real part of the Thunder King product line. So the idea that I'm thinking of, you ready for this? Drip, brew. I love it. So we'll see how that goes. Let me see. Dave Clayton's going to investigate. Dave knows some sponsorship money over in the UK. Let's do this tour, man. Let's brand the whole thing. Let's film it. Let's put it up there. Let's sell some graphic plugins and some AID memberships. Let me see here. The pound is worth shit at the moment. It's expensive these days. Yeah, money's just a mess all around the globe. You need to do a COT tour. Have members put you up in the UK, Australia, and do interviews with locals. Australia is another place I would absolutely love to go. I mean, here's the weird thing about the Circle of Trust. It's like a big number of people if they were all in one room. Like, they couldn't fit in my house. They couldn't fit in the VG warehouse. But you spread them out over the globe, not exactly the fiercest army. So if I was just staying with COT people, I would be like a hobo that's like, I got to get 3 cities over because I heard there's a girl over there that listened to the show once. And if I can make it, we'll get to do it. Not do it like that. Like, I'll get to stay there. That's the do it that I was talking about. Let's see. Gravy is our blood type. I would love to tell the doctor, what type of blood do you have? G positive. I'm positive that I'm full of gravy. Maybe you could get a half flip glasses clip that you could paint out. Could you see me flipping one down when I need to black out Bad Eye Jones? Oh my God. That would be so amazing. So amazing. Dave Clayton had a soccer accident 14 years ago. My left eye is fucked and it closes itself, loads and winks. I always tell everyone when I teach at a conference, I just say, I'm not having a stroke. I'm not going to do that. I want people to think that I'm having a stroke. That's my competitive edge. People think I'm dying, they'll probably pay more attention. Pirates wore patches to allow them to have an eye that saw better in the dark. When they entered dark places, they slid the patch right over to the other eye. I don't know if that's true, but that is genius. To have one eye conditioned for bright, one eye conditioned for darkness. That's why pirates were so effective. That's why they were the best at what they did, which all would be illegal by today's standards. Okay, here we go. Hashtag Snicket Meetup. Oh, man, I would do that so hard. When I went to the UK, I wanted to meet up with people, but it also was like a Mark and Beth vacation. So I did meet up with a couple of listeners, like a couple of times, but I wanted to do a for real meetup. It just didn't seem to happen. Let me lubricate here, get some more coffee in. Friends, we're at the halfway mark of our show today, and I'm having a good time hanging out with everybody over here on YouTube with the live stream. I've been doing YouTube lives daily, Monday through Friday, because I really want to get my YouTube channel to the moment where it's monetized and try to build the numbers where I can really approve in my schedule some of the more ambitious projects I want to do. Like, I know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So if I built something that was really, really rad, maybe it would get more views, more people would see it. But if it doesn't, then that puts me in a downward suicide spiral of creativity where I'm like, oh, everybody hates me, nobody likes what I'm doing. So I'm just trying to baby step my way into it, build the numbers organically, and then when the numbers get to where I can justify the hard work, there's a couple of like internet style documentaries I would like to do, and there's some different things that I would like to shoot or some studios I'd like to explore. So it's all just a work in progress, and I appreciate everybody hanging out with me today and also helping me record tomorrow's podcast. That's awesome. That's amazing. The band Kiss is playing here in Phoenix. I got thoughts on Kiss. I got a lot of thoughts on Kiss. I don't have a lot of great memories of my mom. I've never held back from saying that. I hate Mother's Day. But I do have some great memories of me and my mom and Kiss. Me and my mom love the rock band Kiss. And one of the early tasks that I had in life was to go up to the record player and put the Kiss records on top, because it used to be a record would play and then a record would drop down. So me and my mom listened to a lot of Kiss. And in fact, one year for Halloween, we trick-or-treated as fast as we could because we want to get back home because there were no VCRs back then in the olden days. We want to get back home because CBS was showing Kiss at the Phantom Park. I don't know the exact name, but Kiss made a made-for-TV movie. They were playing it on Halloween night, and we really wanted to see it because we love Kiss. Now, my mom probably loved the music and the rock and roll attitude of it because my mom was a partier. But for me, I just love the costumes. I love this bigger-than-life look that they had. So I had all 4 of the Kiss, like Barbie dolls. I had Kiss posters in my room when I was like 4 or 5. And I went on Halloween as Gene Simmons, had the Gene Simmons face on, had the long hair, wore all black. My mom made me aluminum foil bracelets. We put aluminum foil over my cowboy boots, and I full on looked like Gene Simmons. And Kiss is one of the things that I have in common with my mom. There's 2 big memories that I have with her. It was Kiss, and we went and saw Star Wars a lot at the drive-in. And those are 2 good memories I have, but that's about where it stops. But hey, Kiss and Star Wars, not too bad, moms. Not too bad. Wonder where you're at today. All right. Next time you go to Disneyland, ask someone at the Pirates of the Caribbean about the eye patch trick. Doc Reed, you think that these cast members are well versed on the history of pirates? They'll just look at me and be like, how many in your party? I mean, I'm not throwing shade on cast members, but just because you're working that ride doesn't mean that you're a pirate aficionado. Doc Reed, that's what you do. Carl writes in, what about Thunder King product for lower income people that comes in a room temperature 2-liter bottle? It could have a really light, sweet element and call it the sweet sound of poverty. Well, let me tell you something, Carl. When Drip Drip Brew comes out, you're going to be able to get an affordable cold brew shipped right to your front door, right? Maybe there's a COT Plus, right, where your subscription also has a cup of coffee or a cold brew attached to it. I mean, let's dream big here, kid. But putting your cold brew in a 2-liter, not on my watch, and I'm not even wearing a watch today. That's not happening, man. That plastic, it's going to give you the cancer. Let me take a drink out of my bootleg Starbucks to celebrate. One of our astute designers designed the Kiss album Sonic Boom. Dave Clayton writes in from the UK. I mean, Kiss was all about branding and marketing. They weren't that good of a band. They did transition well into disco. A lot of people forget about the impact that disco had on everything when it came up as a trend. So they were pretty diverse and were able to sort of do hard rock and disco at once. But when you look at the magic of Kiss, and this is where it falls into the design, It's a magic trick on branding and taking a product that's and fancying it up with all the bells and whistles of a great logo, a great gimmick, and kick-ass design. And people go see that band because of the stage show. And the songs are just mediocre and basic enough that they're catchy. I love Love Gun. What are some of my other favorite Kiss songs? You know, the big hits are good. A Strutter. That opening guitar riff of Strutter. Oh my God, it's so good. So good. Copy strike this right now. Arno Kiss, all the way from Belgium, writes in, should I wear a Gene Simmons costume to the next decon to fully embrace my last name? I never really thought about that your last name is Kiss, just like Knights in Satan's Service. There you go. Did you know that that's what KISS stands for? Or is it keep it simple, stupid? It's up to you. It's up to you. Either way, I'll always think of them as the world's favorite Jewish rock band. Here's a KISS story for you. Here's a sad KISS story for you. That one day, I went to kindergarten on my mom's watch wearing a adult KISS t-shirt and not much else. And I got sent home because I was dirty and not taken care of. But I was wearing a KISS shirt. So on one hand, it's sad because it sounds like child neglect. But on the other hand, it sounds awesome because I was wearing a KISS shirt. What would make you sing or play again? I guess you're talking about music, Dave Clayton. Music's done. Chapter of my life is closed. I just don't have time for it. I really, really like performing. I like being on stage, but I get to do that every day with Adventures in Design. And now that I'm doing YouTube and video, I get to do it even more. Look, there's no better feeling in the world than being the singer of a band. The best part about being a singer in the band is this. This is the way that we had our band set up. Band goes out on stage. They play the music. There's an initial like, oh, the band's here. People clap. But then there's that moment when I walked out by myself. And I would just get into the zone. I would walk out. I would grab that microphone. I would take it immediately off the straight stand. Always a straight stand, never a boom. And you just have this crowd. It's an organic, living wall of energy in front of you. And you can feel the heat from the people. You can feel their eyes staring at you. And you can feel the sound of them. And when it all goes right, and you can conduct that into a good time, it is the most powerful, mesmerizing feeling of humanity that I've ever known. I absolutely loved it and adored it. That being said, you always got to know when it's time to move on to something else. So what I do here maybe doesn't have that same power or cachet, but I really, really enjoy it. I enjoy the connectivity with people. I enjoy all the friends that I've made through the show, and I enjoy knowing that I'm somewhere at all times keeping somebody occupied, helping somebody laugh and maybe learn a couple of things while they're doing what they love. And if I'm on the pursuit with lots and lots of different people, turning their daydream into a day job, what is a better thing to do with your time than that? So when I look at doing a band again, it seems very selfish compared to what I'm doing now. That being said, if life gets different and the right opportunity arises, I might be tempted to do something that's fun. But it's a chapter that I really enjoyed in my life. It's closed. And I think about it a lot. Like, you know, I've always tried to look at music like sports. There's the 10 years in your life when you're in the physical shape to be the best quarterback in the world. And then there's a moment where you got to take off the helmet and walk away. I never had a helmet, but I walked away. All right. Billy Ballman, get into the zone. AutoZone. Oh, my God. That is just what we needed. 49 minutes in, and we needed that distraction. Thank you so much, Billy. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Or go listen to Billy today. He's on the show that we released today for everybody who's with me live. And you can also go back onto the channel and watch Billy and I do the Cools live. Lauren Inc. PL. Party Lauren. Did you help with the gear load in and out? Please say yes. Yeah, I did. I mean, not all the time. if like a lot of times with the band I had business to do because we were a smaller enough band where I had a lot of sort of those tasks to do. But for sure, I've carried my fair share of Marshall cabinets up and down stairs. I've carried guitar heads, guitars, drum traps, all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a complete shithead, but I was a decent amount of shithead. Dave Clayton writes in, great episode today. Thank you. I've been trying to figure out a central focus for the shop talks so that all the topics kind of wrap around one idea. Once again, the difficulty of podcasting is, and why YouTube is such a more powerful platform than podcasting, is that podcasting is like buckshot. It's just spread all across the internet. So there's not really a great way for exposure because things like the Apple algorithms of the podcast that they suggest, it's very, very curated. And I'm lucky that I get suggested because I'm like grandfathered in. I've been there so long. But for new podcasts, it's very hard to break out. So the best way I can hope to get discovery is people tell their friends to listen. That's the number one way. But then the second way, it all relies on the title of the episode. And so if I can make an episode that's about something, I just have to hope that somebody goes over to whatever podcast platform they're on and tries to type in the word freelance or hit something that I've put in there. So having an episode that's kind of central around one topic, it gives me the best ability to try to capture new people. That makes shows like Hammer Time very difficult to try to find a way to algorithm that out into the world. But when you have something like YouTube, where there's suggested videos and the landscape of it is always about experimentation, try more, and it's about content and not, direct channels. That's where really, taking a big idea and breaking it up into small bite-sized pieces works really, really well. So my excitement about YouTube is that I can see how it's easier to get to more people, whereas podcasting I've found is limiting, and now that it's so saturated, it feels even more limiting. Did you help the drummer? Yeah, I would help the drummer sometimes. I love to do the drum check, and sometimes Tommy would let me do the drum check, or our later drummer Matador would let me do it. And this is what I would do: is I would sit down, and they're like kick. There's a sound guy who hates you. It's like kick, and you're just like boom, 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 and then he's like snare, and you're like boom, boom, boom. It's like tom, boom, boom, boom. And I know enough about how hard to hit so that, the microphone is properly registering. But then there's my favorite thing where the sound guy's like, okay, now he has all the levels established. He's like, okay, play the whole kit. And when I would play the whole kit, there's just people in the club. Like, there's a bartender like stocking up her bar, and there's merch people counting out merch. And then when you hear somebody who can't play drums, because, everybody's used to hearing the boom, boom, boom. All right, snare, ka, 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 tom, boop, 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 floor, boom, 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 set, boom, 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 boom. And everybody be like, this band's going to be fucking horrible. It was fun. It was really, really fun. All right. It's always, this is what I love about Billy, is that you guys egg him on. So Billy's on here trying to troll me. Sometimes, douche. Like, he is so completely jealous of any attention I get. And you guys all love that. So you fire him up and fire him up and fire him up. And instead of Billy and I working together to elevate this project, it's like, I'm doing this, and then Billy throws a concrete block at me, and I got to carry that and keep doing it. That's what kind of partner I've picked. So you guys just love to make the character of Billy, and then that gives him a pass to just be ruder and ruder and ruder. I've never gone over to his Twitch. I've never trolled him while he's live. So that's the fun part of our relationship, and you guys just make it worse and worse every week because you egg him on. All right. One of the things that I was talking about was the return of investment on what you do when you work for yourself. So I'm curious, for those of you that are with me on the live stream out there, it's not an odd couple. We're actually good friends, but Billy has to show off in front of all of you guys. So the more that you celebrate that, the more he shows off. Billy writes in, you know how Mark doesn't have a good sense of humor? He'll get offended by this joke. See, that's the thing about Billy. Billy is that dickhead friend of yours that does this. Oh, what, man? Why'd you get upset? I was just playing with you. I was just joking around. And that will always be his excuse to be a bad friend. Like if you see somebody who's broadcasting live and they're trying to entertain people, why would you try to make it harder for them? Why would you do that? But no, it's just funny. It's just humor. Like when I write out notes and I want to get into a topic and he doesn't want to go with it, but he doesn't have a plan. That's how he works. And once you know that, you just know to ice it out and not play along with it. But I do like to call it out because I think calling it out is uncomfortable, and I love uncomfortableness. And I also love to beat him at his game and be like, I know what you're doing right now. You're trolling me. You're trying to make me upset. I'm just going to acknowledge it, and then I'm going to move past it. So Billy is on moon mode, and that's the person I've picked to do the podcast with. Congratulations, me, for being dumb once again. Oh, but it makes for good entertainment. Yeah, Eric, I know it entertains you guys, but I don't think you know how irritating it is to try to show up and do your job and have somebody that's proactively working against you while you're trying to do your job. Billy says we see reality differently. Well, I think my relationships with people in this world would prove that maybe I have a firmer grip on reality. Because once again, there he is trolling me while I'm trying to do the live. So now I have to do this and ignore somebody who's trying to mess this up, who also happens to be one of my closest friends. That's an interesting situation to be in. But you guys just enjoy it. So then Billy thinks that this is what he's got to do because that's his character. And then when I get mad and fly off the deep end, what's the matter with Mark? Please, I'd like to see any of you guys deal with half the shit that I deal with Billy. All right. Ignoring the Billy part and moving on. I'm ignoring Billy now because this is what he does. Oh, did I hurt your feelings? Oh, I can't believe that makes you mad. That's so weird that makes you mad. Billy, he's laughing right now. He literally just made one of his friends angry while they're trying to do something. I had a good flow, and he's laughing right now. And this makes him happy. And it's half of your all's fault. But you guys also gel so well, and it makes the episodes great to see the full range. I just think that it's completely unfair because I never do any of this to him. I never do any of this. And it's a complete abusive relationship. And he picks on me and then he tries to manipulate me. And I just think that it's unfair. I don't treat him that way. I don't treat anybody in my life that way. I don't have that in me. I don't understand the gimmick. And let's just please move on. All right. Moving back over to what I was trying to do. See, this is me trying to reset the clock. Like he's not even on today's show and I'm having to play the Billy game, which is such a hard way to do your job. Here's the thing. I would love to know from anybody who's following along with me right now. Do you figure out like a return on investment on your own work that you do? Is there a metric that you sort of look at, whether it's, I hate to say this, but I know that Facebook likes and internet chatter, that is a score. You know, like if you do some work that you're really, really proud of and you post it and it gets no response, how do you react to that? You know, how do you figure out where to go from there? And also what my good friend Billy has done is now, because there's this awkwardness, the chat has gone dead, even though it had been flowing effortlessly for over 50 minutes. Jimmy Bryant writes in, would you ever do an episode with your pops? Man, I would really, really love to interview my dad. He's a really great guy, and he's done a lot of cool shit with his life. But I think that he would be too stressed out to be the real version of himself. And I think that my dad, he's a really great guy. He has a true heart of gold, but he's kind of, I don't want to say antiquated, but he's maybe not the most PC guy when he talks. And it's just literally not because he has a bad bone in his body, but just because it's just a different time and a different way of looking at things. And I can deal with people messing with me, but I don't think that I could deal with people like calling my dad out on something that he said. And like ultimately, what does my dad have to gain from any of that? So I don't think it would ever happen, but it would be cool if it could happen under the right circumstances. But part of doing this job is recognizing like where people are at and who has a good story to tell. You know, there's a lot of my friends that have done really epic things with their life, but I just know that they're one word answer people. Like, one of the things that you may not know about me is the reason why I can literally hit record and keep a conversation going by myself for the last 59 minutes is because my dad is very quiet. And when my dad comes to visit me, I learned this as an adult, I'm always trying to entertain my dad. I'm very worried about my dad's happiness. It's like one of my number one concerns in my life, and it always has been, because my dad's a hard guy to read. So when you're around somebody who talks a lot and is audio like reactive, you can kind of feel what their vibe is. But when you're around somebody who's like the dad on the Wonder Years, who comes home from work and just like, ugh, you don't really know how to respond to that. So my mom's gone, and I'm obviously looking for adult validation where I can find it. And then my dad is non-responsive and not a good communicator. So that taught me to like always put on a show. Like, hey, Dad, did you see this thing that happened in the news today? Or did you see this thing that happened? Or like, remember that time we did this thing, and tell a story. So when my dad comes around, sometimes I feel exhausted at the end of the day because I felt like I literally just did Adventures in Design for like 10 hours straight, because I'm always trying to like engage with him or get him to go. So a lot of my talking comes from my dad. That being said, interviewing somebody that says 4 and 5 word sentences when they're nervous or don't feel comfortable, I don't know how great that would be for you guys. So there you go. See you later, Sue. Thank you so much for hanging out. Our dads do a podcast together? That would be wild. That would be wild. I met Billy's father at his wedding. And so I have a frame of reference of who his dad is. You put those two together, that would be wild. You know, something that I've wanted to do, and hey, Billy, that was a great comment. See, when we work together, life is fun. Something I've wanted to do for a while is I'd love to interview people's parents and have people's parents tell me what their son or daughter does for a living. Like, wouldn't you love to interview, you know, somebody's mom or dad and be like, oh, so, you know, your son's Mike Giant. What exactly does Mike Giant do for a living? You know, and have them explain to you what it is that their kids do. I think that would just be amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I believe, Billy, that if we put our dads together, you know, a normal audio line looks like this. You know, there's just like all this audio going. And if our dads, it would just probably just be a straight line with a blip. It would look like when somebody's dying in the hospital, it's like beep, 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 beep. Jimmy Bryant writes in, oh my God, I would love to hear. Oh, sorry, that's Lauren. Party Lauren says, oh my God, that would be hilarious. Hey, I interviewed a mom for Mother's Day once. I interviewed an artist's mom who also listens to the show, who early on had wrote us and said we were doing a good job. So we interviewed her. That's in the archives. Jimmy Bryant writes in, would love to hear that because my parents make me laugh when they explain to others what I do. I mean, think about how different our workforce is to our parental workforce. Think about how much the world has changed and how people work and habits change. Like, imagine if you work hardcore in social media or in online marketing or branding. You know, I mean, if you're a designer, that's easier for your mom and dad to understand than if you run a pod cart for a living. Actually, the podcast is the first thing that my dad has ever understood that I did for a living. Never saw the band play. Never really totally knew that with art I did like t-shirts. Kind of knew that I made posters. But the podcast, he's a truck driver. And, well, former retired truck driver. Truck drivers listen to a lot of radio. So my dad knew enough about radio to tell me that I was good at it. So this was something that the old man approved of, has actually listened to the episodes. And I don't know what he listens to. But one day he's like, hey, Marky, you remember that episode you did with that guy out on his fishing boat? I think you were on the Mississippi. I was like, yeah, Dad, Brandon Holt's his name. He was nervous. He wanted to do the interview where he felt comfortable. He's like, yeah, you can interview me, but let's do it on my fishing boat in the Mississippi. Yeah, that one. I really like that. You should do that more often. I'm like, all right, Dad, I'll go find more artists that have fishing boats and interview them on their boats. So I never know when he's there. Have you ever met Hammer's parents? I have met I've met Hammer's dad briefly, but I have met Linda Hammer, the original Vibe Tech. Very, very nice woman. David Gallo says, that would be great YouTube content. Parents of creative professionals. it would be fascinating. But once again, there's a logistic problem of getting people's parents and, putting that all together. But it would be fun. There is a hook there, I believe. Jimmy Bryant writes, Hammer Time, the parent version. Would love to hear from Tavo's dad. Tavo's dad, Emilio, is a badass. I mean, a total badass. Like, just the skinniest, smallest, toughest little frame dude that you ever met. You could see him on the cover where it's all of us when we did Emilio's birthday party. Great, great, great dude. Coming up Friday, we have Hammer Time on the show where we are joined by a special guest. Jason Edmonston stops by Hammer Time to join Biggie, Hammer, Tavo, and myself. Linda Hammer is the queen of stashing extra food in the fridge. I love the story of her knowing that everybody would fight about the green bean casserole. So she made an extra one and was like, don't worry, I know a fight breaks out every year. Here's an extra green bean casserole. I also love the story of Linda Hammer and Heather Hammer like selling cookie dough for some sort of, young kid fundraiser and realizing that they were tubes of cookie dough short because a little big dog was sneaking it back into his room and eating cookie dough. And I just imagine like a 10-year-old Hammer, but with his head on a 10-year-old body just back there eating the cookie dough. So good. So good. There's a surprise ending to Friday's Hammer Time, which involves cookie dough. Eric writes in, yeah, that's the story I was thinking of, the hiding the casserole there. Jimmy says, do you have speaking engagements booked already for 2019? Actually, yes. I will be at the Not Real Art one-day convention that's happening March in downtown Los Angeles. I believe it's in the Arts District. I'll be there for the Not Real Art. I'll be doing like a TED Talk, like a 20-minute TED Talk, and possibly doing a small version of some of the stuff that I do in training camp. So like a little workshop. And then I will also be hosting the Orange County Ad Awards again, which happens March in Newport Beach. So I got those two on the books. Don't know about any of the design conferences because the design conferences have the mindset if you do them once, then you're done and it's somebody else's turn. And there's just not a lot of design conferences. And I know in theory it's a go out and do the podcast at the design conference, but it just doesn't really work out. Like AID interviews are best when it's me and a person in their space, really getting a good interview going. So, if a design conference wants to pay me to go out and do interviews at their podcast, or at their conference, I'd be open to do it, but I'm not going to spend my money to do it because people are busy hanging and they don't want to be trapped in an hour and a half interview. Carl says, Hammer Time episode where you were talk about shame foods. Foods you love but people absolutely hate. Mine's candy corns. What's yours? Oh man, what is my shaming food that I love? I like pimento cheese, but that's kind of become hipster and cool. I did MondoCon a couple years ago. It worked out well. I got some good interviews, but the problem is that I don't think that the podcast fully was able at that moment to transition like a full room of people for every interview because people are there shopping, people are there for the social activities. So one of the obstacles, and you know this, Billy, from some of the live shows that we did, is getting people to sit down and pay attention to it. Just going and doing interviews, it's kind of fun, but like I said, it's like I always feel bad taking people away from their booth for an hour and a half. And I have the numbers to prove that content always, there's something about when it's at an event, people are like, oh, well, that was MondoCon and that was like last month and I didn't go and I don't really care. So all of the tag to event content has always downloaded softer than other things. I don't know. There's like this vibe of people felt like they missed out and they don't want to be a part of it. Jimmy says the crop talk was great. When you had everyone stand up, it was pretty cool to see how many people came out from AID. Yeah, that was great. When I did my solo speech at the pop-up crop in Portland last summer, I basically gave like an abbreviated speech on some of the ideas that we're doing in training camp. And I talked about how important an audience is. And I talked about how I don't refer to my audience as fans. I don't treat it that way, or followers. Like I literally start off every show, hey friends, because I think of my audience as friends, and many of them have become friends. And then that's when I said, if you listen to the show and you're a member of a circle of trust, could you please stand? And it was amazing that in this room with this bleacher with, I think it's set maybe 250 people, not a real big room, but a beautiful room. About 25, 35 people stood up. So, it was more than 10% of the audience. And, people that didn't know who I was, but were just listening to the speech. I think it kind of like, to finish with that tone of me thanking them for being a part of my journey. I think that it not only was sort of like the icing on the cake, but it was the proof in the pudding that I knew a little bit of what I was talking about. Party Lauren says, are they doing MondoCon this year? Yeah, I think the idea is now they're taking MondoCon and they're doing it in an every other year pattern. Sorry, my trash cat was yelling at me. I was going to put her on cam, but not enough tokens to go private with that young lady. Yeah, so I think that they're going to do MondoCon on an every other year pattern, which is pretty cool. But if you come out to DesignerCon, you'll see me there hanging out. Not this past year. This past year I just went and hung out. The 2 years previous to that, I was the host and did all the panels. And I had a lot more fun just hanging out at that one and being casual. Jeff says, how's your personal fitness coming along? Did Gus get the Peloton yet? Gus did not get his Peli yet. It's still in a shopping cart. My personal fitness has been put on hold because, once again, being the cataract kid, I don't really think it's the time to take on a big expenditure with a Peloton bike or to sign up for, a big monthly gym. That being said, I have been playing hard to get with the gym that I want to join. And in January, I just let them go away. But they came back, offered me some free days and said, I'll come into the gym, but I'm telling you right now, it's a little bit out of my price range. If we could talk about price, I could come in. I'm going to go on and talk about price. I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm going to negotiate on that. But I think that I'm leaning way more towards the gym. I know the Peloton would be completely convenient and enjoyable, but I think I need to get out of the house a little bit. So maybe it's gym first and Peloton later. That might be a good way to go. I don't want to GoFundMe for my Peloton, Billy. I appreciate that, but I don't believe in GoFundMes unless you're in a bad situation and a cataract or a Peloton. I can handle those. Not convenient, but I can handle that. Carl says, I feel like you were about to start to make a point earlier about ROI and you were going to ask listeners something and then Billy ruined everything. Did you already say whatever it was? I was basically asking people at home if you judge the ROI, like what are your metrics that you look for to justify the personal work that you do? I know professional work that you do, there's a budget that's associated with it, but with personal work that you do, what is the metric that you look for? Is it that you put it out into the world and you got hired to do it from somebody else? Is it the product sells? Is it that personal friends send you a direct message or a text that says, hey man, I really like that hat you just released, or I really like that new patch that you just did? Or is it the social media metrics? Like what are your ROI? For me, because advertising and sponsorship is all attached to view counts, for me it's downloads and view counts. And so I'm always trying to figure out what episode has the best dividends on its download or ROI. So let's go back to the Tough Loves that we were doing. It was a good show. It was great content. I mean, if you look at the 900 episode and how it affect Anderson Blue's career, it shows that it really worked. But, finding two COT people and doing those two interviews, then matching them up with two professionals and doing those two interviews, 4 interviews into one episode, it was a lot of work. And because there wasn't huge names in there, it just didn't move the needle. I mean, it was more popular than other shows, but it didn't move the needle in the way that it would need to justify that work. However, we're in a different world of content now. People want more content at shorter links. Maybe there's a way that all that gets broken up. I have a lot of plans on the way that I'm rolling out content this year, and in February I think that you started to see a lot of different things, a lot of different patterns, and it's all a guessing game, but I'm willing to try to figure out how to make it work and what works best for me. Jeff Film says, I've put the big dogging on the shelf and I'm down 15 pounds so far. 99% eating is the reason why he's putting down the big dog lifestyle and 15 lbs down. Jeff, way to go, man. Losing 15 pounds is impressive. I think a lot of us, if we just look at how we eat and the patterns of when we eat and what we eat, and most importantly, why are we eating, I think that a lot of it is up here for many of us. I mean, I know it's not true for everybody. Billy says, GoFundMe for Larry's Peloton. Cousin Larry on a Peloton would be amazing. That scraggly hair with, I said cousin, it's Uncle Larry, but he's your cousin, with a headband on, that would be amazing. Jimmy says, personal work is a long game, I think, for me. Never know what is going to come from it. Personal work is like Hail Marys. Every now and then you make a touchdown. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Jimmy, that it doesn't feel like it's going somewhere, but I think that you'll find the more that you invest in personal work, the more that it pays off. And in the long run, the more that you get to show for it. People like Billy and myself built great design careers off of our personal work. Like DK and G got to the moment that they were in because of personal work. And a lot of us used the gig poster as the way to make it feel like it was for a client, or at least to have hard deadlines so that we got the personal work done. The gig poster for me morphed into the art print, but the art print had a hard deadline because I needed to have it done for my event in Baltimore or Brooklyn so that I could sell it and make the money that my family needed. So I think that the more you put into the personal bucket, the more that you get back. If you just toy with it and you treat it like a Hail Mary, I can understand what you're saying, but I urge everybody, find time to create for you. The training camp that I'm doing right now, the first half of it is the foundation of freelance. Learning how to know your value, know how to write contracts, negotiate, and manage your time. So once you have that foundation laid, the next part of it that we're going to get into is learning how to make more time for you. Because when you look at everybody that I interviewed that you probably look up to, or you look at a lot of the reoccurring guests, it's at some point in their life, they put the rest of the world on hold and they decided how to do their best work. And a lot of times you have to hire yourself for that. And then pursue it, and others will come around and hire you for it. Jimmy says, or Doc says, with Hucky back into toys again, is there a look to start up the collection again? What can I say about that? I've had talks with Super Plastic. There might be something on the horizon. That's what I feel comfortable saying right now. I did a 365 project and it changed my life. I'm all about it. Oh, Jimmy did a 365. You challenge yourself every day. Jimmy, comment. I'd love to know what the theme of the 365 project was. Was it a daily doodle? Was it a daily logo? A daily mural? Bricky bobblehead. Hold on. Bricky bobblehead. Hammer. Get Tokyo Dave on the phone. I think we need to make the Bricky bobblehead. And yes, that's what I was talking to Super Plastic about. So I will be the first non-jinky character in their collection, which will be the Bricky bobblehead series. Check is in the mail, dog. All right. As I start to wrap up today's live stream, I appreciate everybody hanging out with me over on YouTube. It's been so much fun to have you guys over there to sort of dictate the way that this conversation goes. Jimmy says, new design every day for Instagram. Did it a year and a half ago, all based on nature designs. Man, what a challenge to create a new piece of art for Instagram every day. That's wild. Pete wants the Gene Simmons version of my bobblehead. That will be fantastic. Yeah, Jimmy, this was great. Getting to hang out with everybody. This was a really, really fun live to do. And it also will get turned into tomorrow's podcast. So if you had to pop in or pop out and you missed it, you can listen to the whole thing tomorrow. But I'm always trying to find a way to build the relationship with the audience. And I'd love to know, if I hooked up the 800 number that I have to this, would any of you actually be apt to call in to the live show where everybody could hear your voice on the podcast and we could literally have a one-on-one dialogue? And we could have the comments still going and see what others are thinking. But would you be apt to like call in and have a conversation on the show and let me, I don't know, talk to you about whatever you want to talk about, work you through something? that would be fantastic. So let's do this. Lauren, Party Lauren, you know what you call it. Party Lauren, let's be honest. She drunk dial us. What's that? I'm at the club. Party Lauren, thank you for being a good sport, but it's what we expect because you're Party Lauren. So maybe that'll be something the next time we do this. I'll have the 800 number dialed in. That way you don't have to worry about a video chat or whatever. And, if you're at work, you can just go out to your car and I got to go take my 15-minute cigarette break. I'm still bummed out about the cigarette break. Lauren's like, no, that's not me. I don't want this nickname. I don't want to be known as the girl that calls drunk dials from the bar to the live stream. Hey, Lauren, I'm just trying to make content. You've been a good sport, and I appreciate it. But maybe next time we'll do the number. But let's do this. Let's wrap it up here today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on the live stream. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Hammer Time will be up tomorrow. Got some fun stuff that I'm working on. In March, you'll start to see some new faces come over to the AID network, but I appreciate everybody hanging out with me through the month of February when I was doing some experimentation. One of those things was not taking a week off, but just sprinkling in off days here and there when I needed it to catch up the schedule. Still trying to figure out how to manage all of that and maybe thinking that full weeks off might not be the way to go, but just disappearing on a random Tuesday or Thursday, but still making my quota of 200 episodes for the year. All right, guys, over on YouTube, thank you so much for chatting with me live and hanging out with me. So fun to actually entertain you in real time while you're working. I hope you had a good time. Thank you, Billy, for trolling me and making me mad, but I pulled off the ledge and I pulled it together in. And why? Because he's a troll and I'm a professional. Thank you so much for listening. Good day, good design, and thank you for streaming with me. Cash Cap, and Design Cap. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, guess what? You can go watch it if you wanted to see it, but I don't know why, because you just heard it if you made it this far. Good day.